and welcome to The Update, where Grants Pass stays informed, engaged, and moving forward together. I'm Aaron Kubik, your city manager. We're doing a quick recap of this week's council meeting, and with me today is Councilor Kathleen Krohn. Welcome for being.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me in today.
Yeah, it's exciting. So, can you give our listeners a quick overview of the main items that we went over at the council meeting?
Well, we agreed on a developmental code that needed to be changed to allow builders to tighten up the lots, the smaller lots that they're building on. We passed a municipal code for flammable materials to provide more protection with propane tanks and cooking stoves and all that kind of sort of thing. We appointed some committee members in the public arts, actually 5 of them, and also to the Bikeways and Walkways Committee, we appointed a new person.
It's always great to see, and with some of those committees and commission appointments that are coming in, we have more people applying than we have positions open, which is sort of a good thing.
Yeah, and a couple of those committees, there are some that are still open that I made a list of for people to be aware of.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I hear when I'm out in the community and talking to people is housing is still a big issue. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what can the city do for housing? And you mentioned one of those items, which is amending the development code. And, you know, what council did that night was you're providing additional flexibility for developers to, as you mentioned, build on smaller parcels. Mm-hmm. We've got setbacks that are 20-foot setbacks, and especially with alleyways. And we've got it. It's interesting for Grants Pass. It seems like we have a lot of alleyways that were, you know, future streets at some day that just didn't develop to a street and ended up an alleyway. And there's still those 20-foot setbacks. And what council did is they reduced some of those setback standards to 10 feet, which provides for people to actually put houses on smaller lots now.
Yeah, well, I suppose that is a good thing for builders. Yeah, now they have the option to put 20, 35, or 10.
Yeah. So that really does help when we're looking at all of these infill lots where people can place new houses. So what other things do you have going on for the city that you think would be the public would like to know?
Well, we chose a new council president for the beginning of the year. And with the new year, change comes, change happens. You can expect anything, it's change. So that happened, and then we voted you in as the budget officer.
Yes.
And we also looked at replacing the fly fishing pond in Reinhardt Volunteer Park with a natural playground.
That's right. Because we recognized the fly fishing pond just was not being used as we thought it would.
And who knew what it was? There was no sign. There was really no indication of what it was being used for or what it could be used for. So
Yeah. So that'll be exciting that we're going to provide another opportunity for the youth to recreate in that park. And that park is already so wonderful.
Yeah.
But it'll be a nice use of that space.
Yeah, I think so too. Nice addition.
Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned the appointment of like the budget officer and the appointment of council president kind of thing. For our listeners, we just don't randomly pick a time to do that. That's something that's done on an annual basis. Mm-hmm. And it's usually at the first business meeting of the city council, mm-hmm. where each year we'll look at appointing a new council president. And usually we try to do a rotation, so no one's serving twice in a row or something along those lines, but it's someone that wants to step up to be council president. So,
mm-hmm. And I think Rick Recker remained the vice president.
Oh yes, Rick Recker is vice president with that, so that's a good thing also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I guess I want the public to know that there are some committees that still need people.
Okay.
The Tourism Committee is looking for 2 more people. The Budget Committee is looking for 4 more people. Urban Tree is looking for 2 more. And the Historical Building Sites is looking for 1 more. But with that one, it has to be a owner of a business in the downtown area.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So you've just mentioned a number of them, and we have at least 11 advisory committees out there. And, you know, go to our website if you're interested. This is a great opportunity for a community member to get to know a little more about their government and be able to provide input on things that they are interested in.
Yeah, participate.
Yeah, yeah.
So the other thing that we have been looking at is trying to develop the historical building in Riverside Park, the caretaker's cottage.
Yes.
And we had quite a bit of discussion about that. There was a RFEI
Yep.
presented to create an Airbnb in that place and to possibly expand with some yurts. But we are having quite a bit of pushback on the yurt idea.
We did get a lot of public comment that night about that.
And on our emails, city
Yes.
emails. Yeah, to me, it seems like a just another step forward that shouldn't be made, where we've just gotten that under control with the homeless and getting camping out of our parks. To me, it doesn't seem like a very good idea right now. Granted, the caretaker's cottage needs something to expand with, but yeah, we'll have to see if there's any more other people that have ideas about it and how that we can develop that.
It seems like the Historical Buildings and Sites Commission and some other interested parties, along with council, are interested in saving the caretaker's cottage. It's just, how do we do that? Because there's a lot of costs associated with upkeep and maintenance of that building. And council was looking at that proposal that you talked about, and what they did is they directed me to draft some surveys. So we're going to go out and survey the community to see what they think about this proposal.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And then it'll probably come up again in strategic planning, which is coming up in a week or so.
Yeah. Yeah,
We'll be
that's
back
exciting.
Strategic planning again.
Yeah, and you mentioned strategic planning, and that's such a key point to the direction that the city is going, because this city has established a great process where we develop a strategic plan, and then from there we develop a work plan, which is really the nuts and bolts on how we're going to accomplish council's goals. And then the work plan is developed before the budget, and then the budget gets adopted, and those are the resources that are allocated in order to achieve the work plan, which achieves the strategic plan. But from a standpoint of a council perspective, it's a great opportunity for council to come together and have discussions about the true vision of what you want to do in the next year to 3 to 5 years.
And what the possibilities are.
Yes. Yeah. And it's actually quite energizing. I absolutely love strategic planning when we do it. And this year we're bringing in the advisory committees. So the chairs of all the advisory committees are going to come and have a discussion with the council on what their goals are and what they're focused on. You'll hear a little bit about that from the department directors also.
Great.
And then we'll hear from council where they want to head. And this makes things so nice, because from a city manager perspective, is this really allows us to hone in on and focus our resources on what council wants to achieve. And so there's no questions on where we're going in the next year to two.
And being in our second year of council members, we can build on what we talked about last year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be an exciting time. And it's over 2 days. So it's a great opportunity for it to do a little team building also.
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to make the public aware of is that as of now, there's a promotional grant through the tourism committee for businesses that bring in visitors from over 50 miles, that establish activities and things to draw people into our city coming from over 50 miles. And that grant will be open until February 12th. And there's money from $2,500 to $5,000, I believe, for different businesses. And so that might be something that people want to know about.
Oh, yeah. One of the participants of that grant was the Chamber, I think, last year, where they received monies for concerts in the park to try to get people in from other areas. So, and that's funded not through general fund dollars, not like individual property owners' tax dollars, but that's actually funded through our transient lodging tax dollars.
Yeah, through the tourism
Yeah.
committee. Yeah, and grants are awarded in March, must be used within a year's time frame. I think there's a link on our city
There'll
website
be a link on our website.
where
Yep.
people can apply.
You bet. We have got a very comprehensive website where you can definitely go on and some of the things we talked about today, like an application for an advisory committee or an application for a grant, are all on our website. Mm-hmm. So is there anything else that you would like to highlight?
Well, I just want to encourage people to participate in committees, in public hearings, and workshops. Our workshops are open for people to come in and listen. It's not open for comment necessarily, like the business meeting is Wednesday evenings, but it's definitely interesting to hear what we're talking about and what we're presented with and what we are looking forward to, changes in the city. We ask you to reach out directly to counselors through our city email and participate in surveys, maybe volunteer for city-led projects and events. And look for your spot to get involved.
I agree that I think we're at our best when we hear from your constituents.
I definitely read the emails that come through and respond to those that I feel I have something to give them accurate feedback. I like hearing about things that are going on in the community that I can participate in. Like we had a tour of the expansion of the magazine company.
Man, that was interesting.
On Spalding Street. Yeah, that was super interesting. And all the people that came had good information to share from their different parts of contributing to the expansion of that project. I thought it was interesting to hear from the developers that by their expansion, it allows other businesses to expand. People that are wanting to grow can then engage with some of the buildings that are going to be vacant as they leave.
Yeah.
And then it's a domino effect with other smaller businesses that need smaller spaces. And so Spalding is really developing. It's coming along.
It is. It was a really interesting, Mr. Ward made a comment during our tour saying, when the mill was running, there was like 200 employees or something like that. 160. And then he said, but today we have like
850.
850.
Yeah.
What a difference that makes.
Yeah. To hear it in those terms.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree. Another fact that the developer said was that it was so important that our water treatment plant is coming forward to create more water pressure for these new businesses, their sprinkler systems, et cetera.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you noticed, like I did, looked up at the ceiling of the new building, and the water pipes for the sprinkler systems were quite large.
And it was good to hear that we've done, a good thing in creating the forward movement of that plant.
Well, and I definitely want to make sure we pause here to give credit to you and council for that, because there was an opportunity where we might not have moved forward with the water treatment plant. And it was recognized by this council that it was extremely important. You move forward with it, even with some challenges that we had, like the loss of our $50 million brick grant. Council still saw the need for a water treatment plant and took the necessary action in order to secure that project for the future of Grants Pass. And it's going to be something that's a legacy that this council, and along with previous councils, have provided for the city for decades.
Well, I think for me, it was the city was expecting it. We'd been talking about it for so long. It was like, let's just get this ball rolling.
Yes, so would we. Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into a program that plays a vital role in building trust and safety in our schools, the School Resource Officer Program. And with me today, I have two wonderful professionals. I have our Chief of Police, Warren Hensman. Welcome, Chief.
Hey, Aaron, how are you?
And I have Officer Ken Frownfelter.
Hi, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Good.
I feel extra safe right now.
As you should.
Yes. So I know our listeners want to know an important thing before we get going on this. What are you guys' favorite cookie?
Chocolate chip.
Do you like chocolate? Okay.
That was easy for me.
That's an easy one, yeah.
So there's levels.
Is there?
Is store-bought, homemade?
Oh, it's your choice. It's your favorite.
So there's a store-bought. I have five. I have a top five.
Oh, you do?
I do, and I've talked to actually. We could get into that too.
Keebler, are the Keebler elves part of the store-bought, or?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Matter of fact, no. As a matter of fact, and then but homemade is obviously going to be you got your chocolate chip, snickerdoodle, that kind.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip.
I just like the way snickerdoodle rolls
Yeah.
off the tongue.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say chocolate chip though.
Okay.
Is my number
Two
one.
chocolate chips.
Not because the chief is in the room, but I'm trying to be like him. But I'm saying chocolate chip is.
Okay. Excellent. Well, it is one of my favorites also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I make a mean chocolate chip cookie.
I like a nice chocolate chip cookie, so
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever have yours.
Well, I guess not.
Dum.
All right. Oh, right. Really. Let's get back to the topic here. School resource officers. I'd love to have a little explanation on what do you do? What is the program?
So the school resource officer is basically people understand us and know us as the school cop, right? For short, we're the SRO, and you might see the police that are around, whether it's maybe a football game or at your kids' school when you go pick them up for dentist appointment or whatever, and you see the police are there. They're not there because there's necessarily a problem. They're there to help mitigate problems, and we are in the schools. We work closely with the schools. We have a good program and just relationship with school board, with school administration, with the district office, and then even with the kids and the staff themselves at the schools. And we go in there and we are part of that world. Their families at their schools. The kids have problems or whatever, they have access to a police officer. If they are struggling with something, it also gives them an opportunity to understand that we're not bad guys, that we're not scary, we're not, oh my gosh, there's a police. They still do that, but they get to see us, and they get to see us turn around and say, hey guys, and high five them and get to spend time with them. And they start realizing, oh, they're people. They actually are somebody that I can look up to and that I can joke around with, and they're not scary and they're not mean and they're not all these negative things that people have. We kind of originally have in our head about what police might be. And so if we get in there and we can spend time with them, we have that opportunity to develop those relationships and be there for them, whatever problems that might come up at the school, because that's, for some people, that's a safe place for them. We're able to be there for them and help them through some question times or other problems that they're having.
So what does a normal day look like? Like you're talking about helping the students. How do you actually engage with them? Are you walking down the hall? Do you sit in an office? What does it look like?
All of the above. But yes, for me, I'm also a DARE instructor. So we have DARE in all of District 7 schools, and so I teach DARE. So that's part of my daily process. I will sometimes I go to a school if I don't have a specific request to show up at a school for various reasons. I will go to a school and just go check in, and because I have a good relationship with all the administration, so I can go in there and how are things going? Everything good? Any questions? Anything coming up? No, everything's good. And if there's no immediate problems that are happening, I'll stand outside and talk to kids. They come up to me. They're wanting stickers. They have questions of their own, like how much does all that gear weigh, or have you ever tased anybody? Hey, can you arrest me? All that stuff like that. And there's a level of questions I will answer, and there's some things that are just not appropriate for them to talk about. Obviously, an older kid, maybe a senior in high school, they have questions about more in-depth stuff than a first grader might. But we're available for them to have those questions, because at some point they're going to have to go out in the world, and they're either going to have some kind of interaction with the police, or they may even want to be a police officer one day. And so we're able to be that question for them. So if it's not a direct thing for the school, like fights that are happening, or there's drugs that are in the school, or there's maybe a problem at home and the kid is they're different now because something has happened at home, we can be there for them. We also assist DHS in contacting students at school. We go through the school from day to day, just going to classrooms. It changes often, because sometimes I'll be reading to kindergartners in the library up at Highland Elementary School, or I'll be down at Redwood Elementary School, or over at South, or wherever. And it's just going to be different, and you're going to treat them differently according to their age. So kindergartners, we're going to be reading little stories about, whatever it is that their storybooks are. But I'm not going to be necessarily reading to 7th, 8th graders, or even high schoolers. But I'll go in and talk to them, answer their questions, and and go over various things. And they'll ask all the questions about, have you been in police pursuit? Have you done this or that? And so you get to answer those questions for them too.
That's extremely broad, thinking about, you're talking kindergarten through high school.
Oh, yeah.
And how you can actually engage and mentor those age groups, and the impact that you have is really interesting, because you have to have a lot of different skills in order to deal with that wide range of group of kids.
Right. And you do. And you have to be willing to understand that there's a part that you have to go back to when you were a kid. You were that age. What exactly are they thinking? What are they seeing?
Right.
Right. And you got to put yourself in their shoes for a second. Can I talk about a certain thing with a kindergarten that I can talk to a senior about in high school? No. There's an absolute different thing, because attention span's another thing you got to consider. There's desire, the things that they're interested in. And sometimes they just want to show you the thing that they colored, or they made macaroni, things, So you just got to say, hey, that is awesome. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. But with a high school kid, you got to treat them different. You got to talk, but you have to be willing to put yourself and remember when you were that age. How did people talk to you? How did it feel if somebody just dismissed you? And you want to make sure that you're not doing that, because everybody has enough value that they deserve to be treated respectfully and with dignity, to the point that they can understand that you're human and you want the best for them, which is ultimately, I think, what we should want for them.
It seems like, some days I'm in my office and I'll have a week of work where it's like I've been in the office, haven't really gone out much, and I've pushed a lot of things around, done a lot of planning and those kind of things. And it's like, wow, my impact, where was my impact this week? And I always try to think about that once a week. It seems like a school resource officer, every day you're getting this positive feedback, and you're seeing that you're making a positive impact every day, it seems like.
You like to think so. You hope you are. Sometimes there's just, it's a rough day. Maybe you got stuck on one thing all day long because it was such a heavy lift, or whatever the case was, right? And I mean it, like a case. We get cases in the schools, police cases. It's not always, just reading the kids and stuff like that, but we'll get solid cases that we have to look into, because whatever the case may be, somebody's not being nice enough to this kid at home, and so now we have to look at home life, and that's where because this is the only safe place the kid has to go, and the teachers, the people, that's the only people they can trust sometimes. And so those teachers are like, do you want to talk to the police? Well, I don't want to just talk to any police officer. And so that's why they know us, and they're like, I've talked to this person before. They've high-fived me, or they did whatever, and so they've joked around with me. I know that they have my best interests at heart. And so, yeah, there's a level of just understanding where people come from and being willing to pour into their best selves if possible.
So building that relationship, you mentioned you're also part of the DARE program. Mm-hmm. Now, when I was in school, the DARE officers, they'd be pulling up in like a brand new Corvette or a Hummer or something like that. Do you have some kind of cool car you get a ride in?
I've got this 2016 Chevy SUV. Oh. It's white, and it says police on the side.
Oh, okay.
I've been asking the city manager for years now to get us a Camaro, but he keeps saying no.
I've gone to trainings, and I've seen other SROs that have these wraps and stuff, and it says the school logo on it and the city police at the same time, and I'm thinking that's pretty cool. But it's one of those things. I think we're pretty good stewards with our money right now, and things are, the economy is what it is, and I think I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility sometime in the future, but it would be cool, but it's nothing that everybody's like, you need to have that. We'll get it one day, I'm sure, but it's cool showing up to a school and kids being like, can I look in your police car? And they see the same police car that every other police officer is driving around in. Yeah. And they see that, and they get to go check out the back seat. They get to look at all the buttons and stuff we have up in the front, and all the gear that we carry in the back, and they get to see the lights, and they know how to scream really well when you hit that siren just right. So yeah, that's kind of the cool thing, is they get to see it's not so special that it's different than what they see when they're driving around with their parents. So
yeah.
We've talked about this for years now, just being consistent. Kids need consistency. And even in leadership and management from a day-to-day perspective, the more consistent we are, the more comfortable people feel with one another. And it's incredibly important to me and to Ken and the entire department and city manager to always continue to build that trust and nurture that legitimacy within the police organization. And there may be several kids out there that have things going on, sometimes for years, and they don't say anything. But they've seen Ken or Drake or our school marshals day in and day out, and they, over time, learn to trust them because they're consistently showing up for them.
So you mentioned one thing I want to follow up on, and another thing. Besides the relationship that we've got with the students and the kids in our community, we also, I think this program has probably built a good relationship with School District 7. And is that who we are servicing as School District 7? And maybe a couple questions with regards to that. Where does the funding come from? And you mentioned marshals. I'd like to touch on that at some point too. But
yeah, so we're pretty fortunate to have funding through the school district. And of course, we support some funding through the city, which would be training equipment, vehicles, things like that. But essentially, the funding comes from District 7 to include funding for our school marshal program. And I don't want to go into how many school marshals do we have, but we have a sufficient number to have a solid impact within our school district. And to have plainclothes retired officers dedicated and trained to jump into action at any moment of the day is a wonderful thing to have in our community.
do they serve a similar role as a school resource officer, or is it really two different type of skill sets? And
it's two different skill sets, I guess, under the same umbrella. So they're specifically there for school threats. That's what we want to primarily have them there for. I get to look into crimes that might occur. You know, let's say somebody gets something stolen from the school. I'm looking into that. Mm-hmm. The school marshal's not looking into that. But at the same time, if something comes to the schools to threaten the schools, threaten our kids, they're going to be the first ones to act. And each one of those guys is so on the ball, and they care about not letting anything happen to the kids whatsoever, which is it's so cool to have that. It's a relief to us as SROs, because we're in the schools and we consider them our schools, or we consider those our kids, stuff like that. But at the same time, if I'm out at Redwood Elementary School and there's a problem up at Highland, I don't have to worry about, it's kind of a completely other end of the city, but I don't have to worry about, I can't get there in time because if I'm not there, nothing's going to. No, there are people there that are going to make sure that we're safe. And so it's a different umbrella, but it is, we have the same end goal, I would say.
So, school resource officer, I'm thinking if someone wants to be a police officer, there's a lot of different really special niches, it sounds like. It's not just traffic patrol. It's not just regular patrol. You can be a school resource officer, et cetera. What kind of shifts do you have? I mean, how long do you get to be a school resource officer if you're appointed a school resource officer?
So it's normally about 5 years is you get appointed for that, and then you can reapply for that for your same position or whatever, depending on. But you have to go through. There's some specialized training that's involved with the school resource officer. You have to get a certification from NASRO, which is the National Association of School Resource Officers, and you get an association or a certification from them. And there's different levels, basic and intermediate, advanced, and all that stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do, whether it's traffic or detectives or it's these things. But to be honest with you, whatever position you go into, you get to do all the others as well. As a school resource officer, this week alone, today's Thursday, so this week alone, I have done traffic. I have had to be a detective. I've had to be a patrol officer. You get to do all that stuff. I've also gotten to go play kickball with kids. So there's perks and there's a bonus and a lot of things that other officers don't get to do, which is, go hang out and play Red Rover on a playground or something like that. But on the norm, I'll work Monday through Friday, which is the same hours as schools, but we're also there for dances and like I said, football games and other sports events and things of that nature. And so we do a lot of extracurricular outside of just those hours.
So your hours really do vary. It's not like you're at school from 7:30 to 3:30 and you go home. There's all sorts of different things you're working on.
Correct. Yep. So a lot of times they'll have whatever extracurricular activity and they're like, oh, what are you doing here? I'm working it. We're here. And so we get a little bit extra time to spend with doing stuff, making sure the kids are safe.
And from my perspective too, Aaron, I ask a lot of our school resource officers. I ask an awful lot. In fact, when there's something that's just out of the norm, they jump on board and they're happy to be a part of a different schedule for that day or that week. And a lot of times it's mostly consistent, but then it changes up. And if we have something, and let's just address the elephant in the room, if there is some sort of a concern with a school threat, and if that concern comes in at 2 a.m., and our detectives are called out, and our supervision are involved, so too are our school resource officers. They come in and we work that problem as a team, day or night. And that's why hats off to Ken and Drake and our school resource officers. They do a wonderful job.
So 2 questions on sort of 2 ends of the spectrum. What is your biggest challenge as a school resource officer? And on the other side, sort of what's the biggest reward you get out of being a school resource officer versus a traffic officer or just a general officer, patrol officer?
I'd say a challenge is, I guess, breaking into that relationship that I've talked about before and breaking that stereotype that somebody might have for police officers. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week, and they were like, "I don't like police officers." And I'm like, "Oh, hang on a second." And it was a kiddo, and I said, "Well, how come?" "Well, I don't know. I just don't have. I haven't had. I don't." Because possibly, things have happened in their life. Everybody has a history and story. But I said, well, we can't look at that because we've been talking here now for 20 minutes or so, and you understand that I'm a human, right? And I got these different things. And they said, yeah, that's true. And you start getting that change of mindset. Because I said, and they had some boots on that went up to their knees. And I said, what if I said I didn't like people that with Princess Leia boots? Well, that's not fair. Exactly, because it's just a clothing that I wear at some point, right? So we were able to break that mold and get that past that stereotype. So we were actually having a good conversation by the end of that, and they were open up to talk about whatever, And so it's having that ability to get them to kind of change a perspective because of the value that you added into their life, and being there for them and showing them you can be who you are. What you do is different than who you are. And so that's what I was able to do. So I'd say that's one of a challenge. But one of the perks, or I guess one of the good things, is that when you actually see somebody who is struggling, who is having a poor time, whether it's at home or it's bleeding into school or school's bad and home's fine or whatever the case may be, and you're getting them to kind of you're investing time into them and speaking with them, and you can be open with them, and they feel that they can talk to you about stuff. And it's not just me, and it's not just like everybody comes to me, and that's not what I'm trying to say but there is a level where when you get into that and break that level, that people you see a growth or a change in them, and they're no longer doing this, and they actually are doing something and they're succeeding, and they might be saying, well, I don't know where that came from. That's great. And you see that they had potential this whole time. But had I not gone and spoken with them or spoken in their life or invested time or encouraged them to seek this thing or that thing, would they have actually broken that plateau that they were at? And seeing that happen and seeing them grow beyond the world that has encompassed them at this point, that's actually pretty cool. It's really, really neat to see that.
That is, and I can relate to that as a coach of high school and younger kids, having that type of connection where you see a real positive impact. That's such a rewarding thing. That's huge.
Right.
So school is not year round, and we already mentioned that you're working all sorts of different hours, especially football games and other kind of extra activities. What happens during the summertime?
So summertime, spring break, Christmas break, all that stuff like that, we actually get to go be regular police officers again. We get to remember what it's like to be a police officer. Yeah. I mean, we get to do police stuff all year long. However, going and playing kickball or going and reading the second graders and things like that, that's not everyday police work. But during the summer, we get reassigned to a patrol team, and we get to work all summer long, and we get to go do everything that every other police officer, patrol officer does, from investigations to report writing, which is always the fun stuff, right? Evidence, and it's a good time for us to get vacations in and training and stuff because school's out of session. However, we have families who have other things they want to go do at various times of the year. So we try to coordinate it during those times. But during those times, we get to go back to being regular police officers and regular patrol officers who are working the street and or assisting with detectives or something like that. So we are back to it. It keeps our skills sharp. We're able to then take that information and then go back into the schools when school starts back up again and reassimilate those tactics and skills and things we did during the summertime into how we would do things provided something bad were to happen in the schools during the school year.
So big picture, Chief, it sounds like this is not a bandwidth draw. This is actually a bandwidth multiplier.
Yeah, it's a force multiplier. When you think about what Ken was speaking to, so summer break comes up, where are we going to put them? So I'm always looking at data. I'm looking at our crime stats. I'm looking at our trends. Beat 1 right now, we're seeing an increase in crime. Other 3 beats, we're not. Overall, crime's down a little bit. Where are we going to deploy our resources most efficiently and effectively? And then bringing on the school resource officers to fill those gaps really, truly helps. We've been struggling with staffing. All police departments in the United States are struggling with staffing. We're doing better, though. But as we start to engage that recruitment piece and that training piece, it's wonderful to have the school resource step onto a team with a fully staffed squad of, say, 6 or 8. And then maybe Ken is assigned to focus only on traffic enforcement on 6 and 7A, East Park, pick a street that's had plenty of problems, so we can do some directed patrol efforts with those extra bodies. But also, too, I need the school resource officers to stay focused on everything else. They don't not get to do frauds and forgeries and other types of violent crimes and thefts and assaults and disorderly conducts and criminal trespasses. They're involved in everything. And to be a good leader and manager for the men and women of our organization, I have to keep them all sharp.
So there's a lot of, as a school resource officer, you're doing a lot of positive, a lot of mentoring, just a lot of community engagement. Mm-hmm. Is there illegal activities that occur at the high school?
I'd say there's illegal activity that happens everywhere. And it's not because of the high school. It would be, there's elements everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go. Everybody, we're humans, and humans have a dishonest streak to them at certain points. And so things happen. People take advantage of people they see might be weaker than them, and so things happen. So whether or not it's drugs or it's theft or there's no crazy abysmal things happening, but there are thefts and we live in Josephine County. We know there's a marijuana issue, in our town, in our county, and it doesn't escape the high school. It doesn't escape kids, and unfortunately, drugs and vaping and all that stuff like that is happening at an earlier age, but it's not to the point that they're totally unsavable. We have an opportunity to get in there and kind of talk with them and help them see where those problems can be and how they can better themselves. Some listen to us, some don't, but that's where the relationship comes in, and that's where we have to be able to say, hey, this is not beneficial to you or your future. And they may listen to us, they may not. But if we don't say it, we're not doing our job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we certainly have such an amazing opportunity to utilize that police discretion as we work with the staff, the District 7 staff, as we work with different partners within the community service partners. And Ken and our team are really great utilizing discretion appropriately to benefit the individual.
So regarding school safety, we've talked a lot about you being present there and having connections with the students. Is there anything on a larger scale that we do to help with the safety in our schools?
We do. We have a program that we use, and it's fairly nationwide, and it's from the I Love You Guys Foundation. It's called the Standard Response Protocol. We call it SRP for short. And it is basically an idea that came about after multiple school shootings throughout the country, primarily in Colorado, and we kept seeing just this repeated behavior of similar things that were happening. a lot of these police officers had gotten together with some parents, and they said, hey, how do we get this going across the country so we can educate everybody, so we can save our kids and stop having so many school shootings we've got Aurora, Colorado, and Sandy Hook, and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and all these other schools throughout the country. We want to make sure that doesn't happen here. And so what happens is that these guys get together and they said, how do we make this a blanket thing so everybody is kind of on the same page? And so that's where the standard response protocol came from. It's a piece of training that we put the schools through, the police do. We've done extensive training on it ourselves and gone to classes with the actual people who have developed it and things of that nature. And we will go and educate the staff at the schools. And I know Three Rivers School does it with the sheriff's office too, but us particularly, we will go in there and explain this whole thing. And the idea is, how do we close a school off? How do we protect our kids if there's an issue? How do we make sure that things are going to happen the right way? Well, if everybody's on the same page and communicating appropriately, we've developed relationships with everybody from the beginning, we're going to be able to explain and say things in a very succinct manner that the things get done very quickly. For example, if there's an issue, let's say there is a civil unrest somewhere within the city and it's near a school.
Yeah.
We can go and put that school on secure, what's called secure. And I'll get a hold of whatever administration of that school is in charge of that school. I have direct phone numbers to every single one of them. Myself and my partner, Drake Brennan, we'll get in there and we can call them and say, hey, put your school in secure. There's a problem down the street, or whatever the case may be. They'll put the school in secure, which is different than a lockdown. Previously, we used to have the idea of lockdown and lockout, and everybody would ask us the question, what's the difference between a lockdown and lockout? And a lot of times, police officers, not wanting to look like they didn't know what they were talking about, well, you see, a lockdown is different, and it would be a little bit difficult even for us to understand. So now we totally took out that verbiage, and we have secure, or we have lockdown. And so those two are separate. They're not one over the other. It just depends on what is happening and what we need to do. So we have hold, and that's an issue that's in the school that's maybe localized, maybe a medical issue or something like that. Secure, there's a problem outside the school. Lockdown, there's a problem in the school, and we need all those kids to lock themselves down where they're at, including teachers and everything else, not just kids. And then we have a shelter, and we have an evacuation plan for all these things. So depending on what's happening, we're going to be able to get everybody either out or in and do it succinctly. And if we educate everybody appropriately based on the relationships we've started out with, we're going to be able to be much more efficient and make sure that parents get their kids home safely and loved ones get their loved ones who are staff members or whatever the school home safely.
So both from a police perspective and your standard operating procedures and the way you talk are very in line with the staff at the schools. They know sort of, hey, this is the procedure, this is the language, and you're all on the same page.
Correct. Yeah, we all talk about it too, and we go through drills multiple times throughout the year at every school. We'll go through a drill because if you don't use it, you lose it. It's one of those ideas, and so they teach kids. And some of the teachers that we have in this city in District 7 are probably some of the best in the country. But that's their job, as they teach kids. They're not thinking of bad guys coming in and hurting people. That's not their forte. That's where they ask us to think that way for them. So then we can remind them every once in a while. And then they get to remind me of Mesopotamian history or something like that. I don't know. But that's where we have the relationship. So it's not just relationship with the kids, not just a professional relationship with the district and the police department, but it's actual relationships with the staff members at the school too. So they'll be able to call me up and say, hey, we've got an issue, I've got a kid. And it can bypass the administration if it's a direct need that they have. Or, hey, can you come into my classroom or whatever? Hey, I'm not sure how we would do the lockdown portion. Can you come into my classroom and show me where we would do that? And so we can actually go in and physically do that with them and go through drills before we actually go through a school-wide drill.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, too, the other side that most people probably don't think about, and it's at all levels, to include myself. We're ready, we're prepared, we train, and we discuss often what if scenarios. I feel super confident in the team. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but if anything were to happen, I am 100% confident a professional group of men and women will rally up and do everything they can to stop the threat and save the children that are being impacted, the community that are being impacted. So we're ready for that. And I hope we never see that here, but we're going to continue to train all the time for the just in case.
Well, I can totally appreciate everything you're saying, Chief, because I know you hold your department and our organization to a very high standard, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I want to thank our guests today, City Councilor Kathleen Krohn, Chief Hensman, and Officer Frownfelter.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Thanks for
You're very
inviting us.
welcome. Thank you.
You can find this episode and future ones on the city's website and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We plan to release new episodes twice a month following council meetings. I'm Aaron Kubik. Thank you for being part of the Grants Pass community and listening to The Update, where Grants Pass stays informed, engaged, and moving forward together.